Hey, how's it going, folks? Dave Brown back here with the New Populist. Thank you again for joining me. So, it's been a few days since we had the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and that debate was a complete disaster, as everyone now knows. And going into it, people were wondering, like, how bad is Joe Biden going to be? Is he going to, get that magical shot and be the State of the Union Joe Biden, or will he be worse? Now, I was expecting the State of the Union Joe Biden. That was my expectation. So when the debate started and he came on the stage, it was so obvious he was not with it, and it was a complete debacle for an hour and a half. And any question about his mental state, I mean, it's obvious the guy has dementia. And we knew this. And the media was gaslighting us for years, saying, no, it's not that. He's just old. Coming up with a million excuses for why he gets lost and loses his train of thought. So we know now it's dementia, and they were just lying. And people are asking the question, if Joe Biden is not all there, who was actually running the White House? Some people are saying maybe it's Jill Biden. I've heard one commentator point out that Woodrow Wilson, when he had a stroke back in 16 or 18, his wife had a lot of power and was controlling access to him, and she was essentially running the country. Now, I don't think it's actually Jill Biden. There is another person who has a lot of power that the media has not mentioned, which is shocking to me. I haven't heard his name mentioned on one TV show, and that is the chief of staff for the president, Jeffrey Zients. Now, when you're the chief of staff, you basically control access to the president. You are the conduit. Everything goes through you. You want to see the president, you got to go through the chief of staff. When the president has his speech, on his teleprompter, who approves it? The chief of staff. So Jeffrey Zients has a tremendous amount of power, yet he has been completely ignored by the media as somebody who might be running things behind the scenes. And just to show you this, illustrate that, back when Trump was president, a lot was made about who his chief of staff was. Now, first it was Reince Priebus, who was the head of the RNC, and then it was John Kelly. And when John Kelly became the chief of staff, the mainstream media was very excited because they thought, well, this guy is going to control Trump. And we have these articles from back in 2018, and this is not a flattering one. Kelly thinks he's saving U.S. from disaster, calls Trump idiot, says White House staffers. He goes on to say here, the article, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly has eroded morale in the West Wing in recent months with comments to aides that include insulting the president's intelligence and casting himself as the savior of the country, according to 8 current and former White House officials. The official said Kelly portrays himself to Trump administration aides as the lone bulwark against catastrophe, curbing the erratic urges of a president who has a questionable grasp on policy issues and the function of government. So here, according to this official, who may or may not exist, Kelly thought he was controlling the president and keeping him in line. And certainly Kelly, he was a former 4-star general, and seeing what we've seen from him since then, he clearly had a pretty big ego and had this idea that he was supposed to control the president, not work for the president. And that's why they bumped heads and eventually went their separate ways. So John Kelly, very arrogant fellow who, in my opinion, didn't understand what he was there for. So Kelly was treated by the media as somebody who was going to control the president. And again, here at the New York Times, again, John Kelly, new chief of staff, is seen as a beacon of discipline. So in the past, under Trump, the chief of staff was very important. Somebody who would control or guide the president. Yet, under Joe Biden, there's not one whisper about the chief of staff and what he's doing. And my question is, why is that? Why is the media not talking about him? And why is he so behind the scenes? Why is he not being brought up? And my guess is that he is actually running things. He is the one who's actually controlling policy. Obviously, he's going to work with the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, Anthony Blinken at State, and Janet Yellen with the Treasury. But I ultimately think he is the one behind the scenes that's pulling the strings. Not Joe Biden, not Barack Obama, not somebody else. It's the chief of staff, which is the obvious thing. Yet no one in the media is talking about him or bringing him up. Matter of fact, if you go on Google, just type it in, Jeffrey Zients, chief of staff. There isn't one article about him that's new in the last 5 months. It's like the guy doesn't even exist. And that is always very suspicious when collectively the entire apparatus ignores somebody, especially somebody as prominent as him. And I think that tells us the entire tale here. He is the guy, the point man, who is actually controlling things, which is why Biden can do what he's doing, which is just go out there and be a figurehead. And then behind the scenes, scientists running the policy, giving him his speeches, telling him what to say. And so when Joe Biden says, I'm going to get in trouble, that's who he's talking about. He's going to get in trouble with his boss, the chief of staff, Jeffrey Zients. So that's my opinion. That's my theory on the situation. I could be wrong, but again, I find it incredibly suspicious. No one talks about this guy, despite the fact that he has a lot of power and is quite literally, again, the conduit for the President of the United States. So that's my opinion. Well, that's it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.